The topic for our workshop this morning will be the 10th, 11, and 12 steps. Our speakers for this morning will be John P. and John I. With that, I permit anyone to go.
It doesn't matter to me.
My name's John. I'm an addict.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
And welcome to GRCNA 35. And good morning. And I'm grateful to be here today and be able to do a workshop on the 10th, 11th, and 12th steps. I have a lot of gratitude and for the steps and for this fellowship that's given me a new way to live. And my experience with the steps, it was taught to me 1 through 3 was showing up, 4 through 9 was cleaning up, and 10 through 12 was growing up. It's kind of been my experience. And when I was going through the steps for the first time, it was stressed to me that if I was going to be successful at staying clean, that I had to learn how to inventory. And there was a lot of emphasis and importance put on that. And I'm grateful for today that I was taught that. And and what the truth, I've heard a lot of the truth about John in these rooms. And it was explained to me that the dope was just a symptom, and that the real problem is John and what lies between my ears. So, prior to getting to Narcotics Anonymous, I had a lot of people telling me what I needed to do, from my parents, my siblings, police officers, probation officers, judges, and none of them never told me that I needed to do a personal inventory until I got to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous in that 4th step. And one of the things that I've learned that the 10th step is more of a continual basis of that, except that I do on a daily basis. And it's been my experience also that taking a personal inventory and admitting when I'm wrong has given me a lot of freedom, because I've learned that when I'm disturbed about anything, I'm the one with the problem. And and one of the things the Freedom List program's given me today is that whenever I'm disturbed in those things throughout my day, I can stop and ask myself what's really going on. It's easy for me to point the finger at you, but you people explain to me when I do that, I got 3 more pointing back at me. So through that process of looking at how I react to people instead of responding to them, has given me a lot of freedom. And it's given me the freedom not to allow people to take my whole day away from John. And and today I still have some bad times during the day, but I don't have a bad day all day. And that's the direct result of this program and implementing the principles I've found in the steps. And the perseverance of continuing to implement principles in my life today and trying to live this way of life, that 10th step is crucial for me to stay in today and not let yesterday carry on and not let the fear of tomorrow creep in. And that's much easier said than done. And by no means am I 100% a pro at it. I'm not. This is something I have to do on a daily basis. And what worked for me to stay clean yesterday may not necessarily work for me today. So it was taught to me early on that I have to be vigilant and apply this program on a daily basis. And like I said, the 10th, 11th, and 12th steps for me is about growing up today, and I've heard them explained as maintenance steps, but I really believe they're growth steps for me, because I got to continue to grow in this program if I'm gonna be happy, joyous, and free. And and these are the principles that I try to implement on a daily basis to keep me connected to the God of my understanding and to stay in His will today. And a big part of that is getting John out of the way, because that's been my problem, is getting in the way. And and the longer I stay in the program, the more I hate having to admit I'm wrong. So that's one of the big motivators for me to try to keep this program fresh and to practice these principles in all my affairs, because I truly strive to try to do the next right thing, or the next thing right, and treat people the way I want to be treated. And of course, I don't always do that. And self can creep back in really easy, and I've often found that I have cracks in my faith, depending on whatever situation I'm dealing with in life. And but these are the tools I've been given to live life on life's terms today. And so it's been hard for me to either devote time at the end of the day to look at my day and see what the things I could have done better, or do I need to owe amends to people. And and like I said, I'm human, and that's one of the things that I've really had to accept about myself, is that I'm gonna fall short, and also that other people are human too. And one of the things that is, you people have taught me, is that to really look at my expectations, and that expectations are really premeditated resentments if I allow them to happen. And of course, I do expect certain things from people. I expect people to pay their bills. I have my own business today, and but that's not reality. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And as a result, guess what? I get resentful and I get pissed off. And but there's a proper way of dealing with people today, and with myself. And it all starts by me looking back at what does this really affect John, And I've often found that, it can either affect my security, my relationships, and those things, where usually what really comes out of those things for me when they're threatened is a lot of fear. And when I get fearful, I have a tendency to get angry, and then things go bad from there. And but that kind of leads me into the 11th step also, as far as to continue to grow spiritually in this program, and to keep the conscious contact with the God of my understanding, and praying only for His will for me today, and what to make me aware of what is the next right thing to do. And of course, I definitely got to have you people in my life today, and that's one of the things I learned early on, is I need recovering people in my life, because even today, with the amount of clean time that I have, sometimes I still don't know what the next right thing is, and I've been given the opportunity to make much healthier choices today, but I still have the same character defects that I walked through that door with when I first got here, and and I'm out to use them on any given day. And I've know myself well enough that I can walk right out that door and do something unprincipled. and that's part of me being a human, and and suffering from this disease. You know, it's an ongoing, recovery is an ongoing thing for me, and it's something I never graduate from, and I continue to have to be open to new ideas and in my life today. So, you know, it was taught to me early on to hit my knees in the morning and hit my knees at night, hit my knees and just say, please help me stay clean today in the morning. And if I stay clean through that day, upon going to bed, hit my knees and say thank you. And that was it. And, you know, I found too that, you know, be careful what you pray for, because you just might get it, you know. And I've had experiences throughout my recovery where I have prayed for specific things, and I've got them, and I found that I wasn't ready for those things. A relationship, you know, I found I wasn't responsible enough yet, or I wasn't emotionally and spiritually grounded enough for me yet. And you know, and those things have been growth opportunities for me, and to continue. But it, you know, it caused me a lot of unnecessary pain. So, but you know, again, you know, I want what I want when I want it, and on some level, that's still true for me today. If I want it real bad, you know, I really had a hard time with being patient and allowing this process to come about in my life today. And but what I found is that when I pray for God's will, you know, and oftentimes I know what God's will is not than what it is. You know, I know it is for me today is to, number one, stay clean. You know, because if I don't stay clean, I'm no good to myself. I'm no good to anybody else in my life, and there's only destruction gonna happen. And so, you know, I know that much, and I know it's God's will for me today to implement this program in my life and stay connected with Narcotics Anonymous and other recovering addicts. And, you know, the thing with that also is that, you know, you know, I have a huge debt to pay to Narcotics Anonymous because it's given me the life I have today. And also in respect to the 11th step, you know, I've had a hard time with meditation. I found that I best meditate when I'm moving, and usually when I'm working, I can get zoned out and slow this down a lot in my head. And but you know, praying is me connecting with God, and meditation is listening for God in my life. And so I found that to be helpful. You know, and exercise and stuff like that kind of keeps me zoned where I can meditate pretty well. But that's been kind of a hard process for me to learn. But it's been one of the most enriching things also for me to quiet my mind. You know, and I remember when I got here, man, I could not shut my head off. I remember thinking so much that I would get a headache, you know, because I was in constant worry, fear, and, you know, and it's truly the grace of God when we get here, before we really learn the tools and the principles of the steps, that I was staying clean, you know. So these are the tools that I use today to keep me on an emotional keel, and to keep some serenity in my life, and to be happy. And you know, the 12th step, as a result of the steps, we had a spiritual awakening, and for me, you know, that was a shift in my perspective, in my thinking. And as a result of implementing the 12 steps in my life, and like I said, you know, I have a huge debt to Narcotics Anonymous, and the best way for me to repay that is to participate in my home group, and to reach out to the still suffering addict. And you know, and that may be the newcomer, or that may be the guy with 30 years, because if you stay clean and you keep coming around, you keep breathing, life will show up. and that's been my experience. And there have been times that I need you people to hold me up, as well as being there for the new person. So giving it away, and not only in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous that I try to be a service today, but I try to be a service and to the people, whoever I may come cross paths with today. And and that means there's a lot of people on the outside that I can be a service to as a direct result of this program. And sometimes I may be the only basic text a person will ever know, and that's through my actions. So I try to remember that. And when I'm dealing with, people that have cut me off in traffic or not paying me for my work, my service rendered, and I try to do what's important for me today is that I do the next right thing, and that's what the main thing is, and to show God's love and grace through my actions. So, this program has given me the ability to do that, and for that I'm grateful. And I'm going to shut up and let John share his experience. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's John. I'm an addict. Good morning. Glad to be here. And thanks for sharing, John. And Randy from Jamaica. Bahamas. Don't let me get away with that. You can keep me on that. I was, my current home group is Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. and it's called Choose Your Weapon. The name of that group has to do with, it's based on picking a piece of literature and using that as a basis for somebody that speaks on their experience with that literature and how it's impacted their recovery. That's in Huntington, New York on Long Island. And I'm missing that today. I have a co-chair position. I just started there. I just took a commitment of a little less than 2 months ago. My first home group was the lunch group. I don't remember the name of the thing. It met at the Rising Sun Clubhouse in Marietta, Georgia. I say lunch bunch because for the first number of years in recovery, I always had a daytime lunch meeting. I think it was lunch bunch. I do service in Narcotics Anonymous, and I think it's important. I was in bed this morning at 8:35, and we were supposed to fly out yesterday morning from Long Island to come here, and there was half a foot of snow, so I had to rebook the flight, so we didn't get in here, the hotel, till 10 o'clock last night. I woke up at 4:30 to make that early morning flight. So I'm pretty tired, but Tony called, and I told somebody last night that I'd be willing to, or actually they'd asked me if I do a workshop. I said, sure, if you need me to. And then last night they said, well, somebody said, it's okay, I don't think you have, just enjoy the convention, that's fine. And then at 8:30 this morning, Tony rings up and asks if I can do this at 9 o'clock. So there's that moment where it's like, in bed, hadn't even had coffee, taken a shower or anything, so I'm here and I'm grateful, and I love the steps. So I agree with much of what I heard John talking about. I'll just riff and kind of share some of my experience with these steps. I agree that up until from steps 4 through steps 9 is a process of figuring out who you are, where you are, cleaning up the mess, learning yourself, learning how you relate to other people, and figuring out a way to live on a daily basis that doesn't create havoc for me. So step 4 through 9 is that. Then I can just share my experiences that while I was in that process, I continued to create havoc for myself and other people to some extent, because I was not yet a fully formed person, nor am I sitting here today saying I'm a fully formed person. And that used to frustrate me, but I'm excited by it now. So steps 1, 2, and 3 were this, oh my God, everything's horrible. I'm a mess, physical, spiritual, mental. I have no idea what to do or how to do it, and I need something other than what I've tried and all the attempts to quit using prior. And there's a surrender in there that makes it possible for me to then start this inner process and owning my part in the problems that have been involved, that have been part of my life. So for me, the 1, 2, and 3, but really 4 through 9, there's a lot of questions and answers. That's what I considered step work. Working a step. It's a weird phrase. What does that really mean? And for each addict, I think it can be different. And for me, it was, using those worksheets that at the time were around, and working with a sponsor and other people to try and understand the nature of this addiction thing and how it applied to me, and then answering a series of questions and sharing those with a sponsor, and then going and making that list, and then going to make amends. One of the problems I've had early in recovery up until that point, and I hear this shared a lot, is that I did this stuff out of order. I made amends before I even understood about a second step, or barely understood a first step. I was calling in people and thinking I was going to make an apology and end up turning into an accusation and a confrontation, and just I put the cart before the horse all the time. Making amends early in recovery. I don't say it's impossible, and sometimes I think things get put in front of me that I have an opportunity to do something, and I can do the best I can at it. But I think, for me anyway, I have more often than not failed in my attempts when I get things out of order. So I owe some amends now, but I'm not tracking those people down. When the time is right, but early in recovery, I just didn't have the tools to own my own stuff. But and then service. I did service early in recovery, because they say do service. And when I sponsor people, I say get involved with service. They come and they say, I got 90 days clean. I say, that's great. Go speak at your home group or whatever. Or I say, I got 6 months. I say, that's awesome. You know what you really need is to get an H&I commitment, or whatever it is I say. Because my experience was I needed a reason to stay connected. Because I'm an isolating type of person. I would possibly, I'm not depressed or anything, but I would have possibly been okay staying in bed this morning until 11:30, just because it feels good. I enjoy that. But there's something therapeutic about being a part of something, and that was given to me early in this program. But the service that I did early in recovery was service where I didn't know it at the time. I was doing the best I could, man. I don't like sitting at the front of the room. In this meeting right here, I don't like sitting in the front of the room. I'll do it because that's the tradition, not the 12 traditions, but it's a tradition of how conventions run and how this workshop's set up, and I'm not here to fix it. It's not nothing to be fixed except my attitude that, hey, you just surrender to the way things are. But I did service, and it was all about look at me service. You know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I didn't know it until people didn't respond to that, and then I got a big ego problem, and then I would say something destructive and burn a bridge and basically run off, you know, because these people wouldn't do it the way I wanted them to do it. And I damn near got loaded and damn near wanted to kill. I did want to kill myself, but I didn't do it. When I painted myself into that corner and I took my time painting that floor, you know, I was grateful that there was a helpline where I was living, and I was able to go to a meeting after not going to a meeting for a long time and tell them, hey, I feel like, you know, getting a shotgun and killing myself. And they said, welcome. You know, we know exactly. So the service that group provided for me in that moment was perfect. It wasn't about them. And then, anyway, from that moment forward, that was another type of spiritual awakening for me, and I changed my relationship with this program, and I changed my relationship with others and with myself, and it's been an awesome thing for me personally. And I'm supposed to be talking about 9, 10, 11, 12, and I will get to that. I think I don't know how long or how many times I'd read the 10th step in the basic text till one day I saw that it says in there that this inventory process is continuous. You know, I don't see the steps as, you know, you do step 1 and then you're finished with step 1. Nobody does, but we say that. I mean, you say, oh, I just finished. In New York, it's common for people to say, I'm formally working step 7 with my sponsor. I'm like, well, I don't even know what that means. What do you mean you're formally working it? I mean, it's okay, you make an appointment with your sponsor, you've answered all the questions, you show up, you spend an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours talking about it, and then you go on and you're done with step 7. It doesn't work for me. You know, the principles, the program's a set of principles written so simply that I can follow them in my daily lives. That's the program of Narcotics Anonymous. It's the principles behind the 12 steps. So anyway, it was years before I saw that in the basic text, and all of a sudden it was there. It says we take continuous inventory. And there's a fine line between being self-obsessed, like, you know, everything's about me, let's talk about me all the time, oh, here's where I am, versus having an awareness of my role in things. And I think the 10th step's great. People need structure about how to do it, and we got this IP informational pamphlet, Living the Program, that has a series of questions. And they're fine and they're good, and I often tell people, well, you can use that as a framework for your 10th step if you want to. I still use worksheets to kind of provide structure for people that want to be sponsored by me, and many of them follow that structure, and some of them choose a different structure, and I'll work with them that way as well, because I'm not the type of sponsor that wants to create people that believe the same thing I believe or act the same way I act necessarily. I want them all to be able to experience a type of freedom that I just couldn't imagine was possible when I last used. I just couldn't imagine. So continuous inventory. And the spiritual principles as I recall them, and I'm not a person that recites literature or remembers. It's not my strength. Steadfastness. I've heard perseverance. I got that written down somewhere in a list. I don't think it's in our literature, but it's a good, I think it's almost the same thing, if not exactly. Perseverance, steadfastness, responsibility, accountability. There's great power in being able to assess a situation, whether it's positive or negative, and be able to say, you know what, I really screwed up. I really screwed up. It happened last night. I got an email on the frickin' shuttle over here last night. I'd said something the day before to somebody. They took it the wrong way, or maybe I probably, very likely, didn't speak correctly about what I was trying to convey, and they were upset, and I had no idea. And I couldn't let that sit, so I responded last night on the shuttle over him. No, it wasn't my intention, and I value you, and I'm sorry if I miscommunicated. There is a great power in being able to just deal with things as they occur and not let them get seated in my gut and fester and grow into this big resentment, which is poisonous for me. When I got here, I was filled with resentments and misconceptions about what was real. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were all hung up on this imaginary conversation that was in their head, or they thought that somebody else was thinking this about them. But I said, have you considered talking to them about it so that you can at least get grounded in reality? So I think the 10th step, there's a great power in being able to clean up things as they happen. The 11th step, much like what John was sharing, was a great source personally for me of frustration. And I might even say anger. I mean, I can remember feeling angry and feeling like a failure because I just couldn't get it right. I had this notion that I had to get it right. And I love our literature, and I'm nuts crazy about the basic text, but there's the writing on the 11th step in the basic text did not fit the bill for me. It kind of twisted me up a little bit. Because on one hand, it says something like, there are many different practices for meditation, and an endorsement of any of these would be an implied endorsement against our traditions. However, we know that for anything to have an effect, you must first still your mind. So I thought I couldn't meditate until I stilled my mind, and I spent about 7 or 8 years trying to still my mind by staring at candles or repeating koans, these meditative things, or sitting a certain way, or going out in the middle of the woods. And it was horrible because I was trying, just saying it out loud makes me feel silly. But how many thousands of times have I been in a meeting and I hear people say, I can't still my mind? Thousands and thousands of times. And in the book it says you got to still your mind. And I love that book. And I still love that book. And somewhere along the line I had a health problem. I ate a lot of food and I got really big. I'm pretty big to start, right? But all of a sudden I was 300 plus pounds, and my cholesterol was like crazy through the roof. And I had a little family, and they said you got to get healthy. So I started eating different, and I started doing different exercises. And I thought, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to run. And I spent like 5 or 6 years. And I did improve my health. I lost weight. And I would run, but I could never be comfortable running. I was just uncomfortable. And I'd get mad. And I didn't know what was going on. But I kept at it. I just kept at it doggedly. And I remember one day, I think it was 98 or 99, I was running near my home at the time in Stony Brook, New York. And I just realized, like, damn, I don't hate this anymore. And it dawned on me that I was a runner. I'm no longer somebody that's struggling to run. I'm a runner. And I was just like, that was awesome. Now, what's that got to do with meditation? Like John shared, I find that for me, a meditative practice is a repetitive physical or some other type of connection. And that's for me. Other people can stare at candles, and that might work great for them. That's fine. But I started treating it as a meditative thing. And I got into a program of running and becoming better at running. At the same time, I found some other readings, because I was always interested in meditation and always wanted something out of it. And at that time, I started working with a teacher, and I started doing some of the things that I'd failed at before trying to meditate, and I started having some success. And it wasn't that I could still my mind, and the basic text is right on about the benefits of meditation. So, through prayer and meditation, we try to get a better, I can't even say it step now. The benefit of meditation for me is that I'm able to watch things go by, and I don't have to attach myself to them. I was shocked, freaking blown away I thought the goal was clean time, getting clean time. Oh, that's a good goal to have, right? I'd rather have it than not. But I was blown away at that stage in my recovery with how much I had to continue to grow through the process of applying the principles in my life. I thought I was done, man. I had years clean. I was in a grad school. I was doing this and that. I had some success at work. I thought I was set, man. And then I got into this thing where I was active in the program. I was active in life. And I found this meditation thing. And I feel like it just propelled me. And now I have such hope for the future, because I don't feel like that process has readily ever stopped since that point in time. I've continued to move forward and grow. And I had been involved in different types of service early in recovery, as I said, and I'd burned bridges and made some big mistakes and had to make some amends and blah, blah, blah. Not an uncommon story. I hear it often in Narcotics Anonymous. And somewhere around that, after I started having these changes in my personal recovery, I decided I'd get involved in a type of service again, but I was not sure that I was free of the ego problems that had plagued me. Or I thought I'd go to this, service meeting, and after 3 or 4 months, there was a chance, because I had a history of thinking it was all about me and not about service. So I told people, I want you to watch me and help me not repeat the same mistakes. So the 11th step, the principles that stick for me is, God-centeredness, God awareness, surrender, and this whole idea of praying for nothing but knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. That is so simple. I don't like, there's a part of me as a human, as an addict, that doesn't like simple. I like complicated, but that is so simple. I mean, I can say, gosh, I hope I get that job, or gee, I hope that girl, looks at me a certain way. But again, for me, the 11th step got me a place where I could have that thought, call it a prayer, call it a thought, whatever. But I didn't have to give any weight to it. I could just say, oh, there goes that crazy thought again. You know, as I get older, I've given up a lot of the, you know, or I've found a way to have those crazy thoughts that used to be so distracting. I used to judge myself so harshly for having these thoughts. I've been able to let those things just be what they are and not attach weight to them. So then I came back to a different type of service, and it seems like I was okay. I found that there's plenty of people there that have difficulties working together or maybe doing service the right way. And I can sit up here and say, oh, I don't judge people, but I do. I just don't judge people and hold on to it. I'd say, oh, there's a judgment thought, and then it's immediately followed by this continuous inventory. Well, you don't really know that person. You don't really know their motivation. I mean, it sounds distracting, but for some crazy reason, it's extremely calming. And I think that the 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and practice these principles in all our affairs. That there's a promise and a responsibility there. And I read that step many times, and at some point I realized that it says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. That's the previous 11. It didn't say, thinking you know what's going on because you've gotten through the 5th step, or thinking that you're a really good person now because you've meditated for a couple of years on the stuff in the 7th step, or thinking that you got it made because you've gone and made amends to all your family and friends and everything's cool, or whatever the case is. It says that having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So there's the promise and there's the responsibility, and I take that, I feel like I'm an active member of Narcotics Anonymous, and there's room in here for all sorts of recovering addicts at all stages of recovery, and it's my task and my pleasure to be able to know many of them and to be able to accept people where they are. I personally, I would say I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm a member of a 12-step program, right? But I wasn't living 12 steps. So now when I do service and I feel threatened, or I feel I can let it go, I can let it ride. Almost, I'm not almost 100%. And if I have the feeling like, come on, or no, you're wrong, I don't have to stand up in the middle of the room and shout it out. I can watch the river flow, as Bob Dylan said. Just watch it flow and trust. And have a faith in the loving God. Trust that whatever outcome happens, I can have some influence on it. I'm not powerless in a situation, but I don't have to wrestle it and make it go the way I want it to, because usually things turn out better than I can imagine they would. And oftentimes people have better ideas than what I have. And when I get myself into trouble is when I attach myself to my idea. Oh, this is the right way, and then I get blind to everything else. So the 10th step keeps me from going back and recreating the wreckage. It keeps me, I think, helps keep me clean. I just have today. I can't run anymore. I don't do that motion stuff. I've recently started rowing. When I blew my knees out as part of my meditation practice, I had a spiritual crisis. It was difficult. It was like grieving, like, oh my God. I mean, when I went through a number of years where I was really floundering, because I'm not going to say I became addicted to that thing. I loved what it did for me, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I'll wrap up here. I was at somebody invited me to participate with them and some other guys in a Living Clean discussion group, and I was there on Thursday night, and I struggle a little bit with that piece of literature. I think it's great, it's fine. I just have not quite connected with it personally in a way that's meaningful, but I trust that I probably will. But there's something in the first chapter talks about, we find that all our problems of living, whether they're work, relationships, money, whatever, that there's a spiritual solution. And I really feel that today. I said I'd wrap up with this, but I got one other thing that I hope I remember to go back to. I was recently, in the last 9 months, I had a pretty significant illness that made me miserable and made me want to think about, I don't want to live like this, and it was bad. And it was bad for a few weeks, and it was just horrible. And at like 4 o'clock in the morning, after a few days of weeping and crying and grieving and like, oh my God, how can this possibly be? I found myself, something came to me that I don't have to have the relationship with this sickness that I've been having. I can take this thing and I can separate my spirit from it, and I can nurture spirit. And I started just separating myself from the physical sensations and having a spiritual relationship with this sickness that was making me physically miserable. And I was okay for a few days. And then over time, the sickness lifted. That process that's a 10-step thing. What's my involvement? Why? I'm fucking miserable. What's my involvement with that? How can I separate myself from it, which is the benefit of this meditative practice? And then how do I do that? How do I carry that out in all my affairs? It was miraculous, and I sound surprised, but I shouldn't be, because it's happened over and over again. And it's awesome. It's awesome. And this is the last thing, because I did touch on the spiritual principle. I just wanted to say that my understanding of the 12th step is responsibility. It is selfless service, and I've heard it said other places, although I don't know if it's in our sacrifice. I mean, sometimes I do not want to answer the phone, and the truth is sometimes I don't, but I should, but I can't. There's so many addicts needing help. When I first got clean, and I hear it sometimes today, if anybody ever asks you to speak, you got to say yes. Well, I don't know. Where I live in Long Island, there's 200 meetings a week, and I got a busy life, and I got obligations. And when somebody that's chairing a meeting calls me the night before, and I've been working 12-hour days for 5, I have no problem anymore saying, you know what? There's plenty of people that can carry a message in Narcotics Anonymous. You don't need me to come down and do that. Or they call and ask me to speak on a day that's my home group. And if they do that, I say, you know what? I got a commitment at my home group. So I think so much in recovery is trying to find balance. And if you ever succeed at that, please drop me a line and let me know what that feels like. Because, you can feel that way for a little while and then things shift, and I used to hate that, and now I just love that. I'm so excited about recovery. I'm excited about my life. I hope that I talked about the 10th and 11th step, and I think that's all I got to share. Thank you.
Thank you.